Hi, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to speak to you today about how we need to stop trying to change our partners. Now, if you're new to this channel, I'm somebody who speaks a lot about relationship advice. I've been a therapist and a coach for over 26 years. And even though I didn't intend to specialize working with couples and working with individuals on their relationships, it just seems to have happened. So I'm sort of, I guess, following my destiny, you could say. But I do want to always remind you that any advice that I give here, it's going to be for the general population. It's not going to be for relationships that are, super toxic. Um, it's just more or less for people that seem to share a lot of the same conflicts and difficulties in relationships. Now, I'm obviously a woman, and I'm going to speak on behalf of women when I say right now, again, stop trying to change your partner. I hear from many women who say, my husband is just not emotional. My husband is emotionally retarded, and they use a lot of deprecating words, when they speak about how unemotionally attuned their husbands are. Now, first of all, men, if you're listening, you're fine just the way you are. It's just who you are. I mean, even though there's a lot of statistics out there that describe how men actually do feel just as strongly as women do. I mean, for example, there's one from the Journal of Social and Personal. Um, there's an article from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships that state that 60% of men feel emotionally disconnected to their partner. I mean, over what we're saying is over 50% of men feel disconnected with their partner. So it's not just women that are feeling this, men are feeling the same thing. And also, I want to let you know something else. I just recently interviewed Alyssa Boyer, who specializes in a category of people called highly sensitive people, or HSPs. I've actually done 2 episodes with her. And if you're interested in this category of people, then I would, strongly suggest that you check out these episodes that I did on my podcast called Mixing Business with Pleasure. And there, in preparing for the episode, I did some more research on this, and it turns out that 20% of all men fall under this highly sensitive persons category. And this percentage is identical to that of women. So again, I think there's this myth out there that men don't feel, or they don't feel as deeply as women. Now, they feel, as you can see with just these simply like 2 stats out there that I pulled out, um, and that they do feel deeply just as we do, but the difference is that they have a hard time expressing their emotions. I mean, men just don't feel it's natural for them to talk about their feelings. And I'm getting this from what men have told me. Obviously, I'm not a man. I don't ex- expect to be able to relate to what a man feels, but anecdotally, this is what I'm told. It's just sort of, it doesn't come natural to them to become vulnerable and sensitive as we do. I mean, I know that I cry lots more than my husband does. And I think most people in relationships women would say the same thing. It's just much more natural to us. But again, as it's been seen on MRI scans, their brain lights up just the same way that ours do when we feel deep emotion, whether that's high or low. So I think we just need to accept the fact that they're not going to show their emotions the same way as we women do. Now, that might be very disappointing to a lot of women, that men can't really, because they don't express it. Maybe it's hard for them to connect with us as deeply as we want them to, because I mean, words are everything. And if they're having difficulty expressing a feeling, chances are they're not going to want to do it. Like, which one of us loves doing things that we struggle doing with? Like, I mean, know myself, I keep on saying, oh, I hate golf. I just don't like golf. But the truth is that if I practice golf and I became very good at golf, I think I would probably learn to really love golf. So we love doing what we're good at. And some men do want to practice the skill of emotional attunement, but I personally feel like that's a rare breed. I mean, because I don't know, it just is. No, it's not to say that I haven't had men in my office saying things like, I do want to become much, much better at this. And that's wonderful. And, I mean, there's a lot of women that I've worked with too that have to become much, much better at this. But the choice is in their hands. That's what I'm saying. We can never change our partner. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this. I feel like I need to remind you of that. If they want to change, they will 100% change, but it has to come from within. So, I mean, I mentioned that connection and vulnerability is super important for any relationship. I think the more connected we are on an emotional level, the more successful we will be in our relationships. But you have to see that there's other ways of connecting than just sort of describing yourself and why I want to do I want to, behave a certain way, for example. Like what if and I think a lot of couples do this really well. If you connect on your vision. I mean, that's ultimately how, you connected in the first place, is that you had very, very similar visions and you're aligned in that way. And often I think partners can get very deeply connected when they think about their vision for their family, their vision for their careers. Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 or 15 years from now? Start speaking like that. And then I feel like that's sort of a bridge into, this chasm of what you might feel is disconnection. Like, always go back to your why. Why are you two together? And if you're having trouble connecting on that why, then maybe you do need to, I guess, rethink your relationship. It's not to say that it can always be repaired, but I like to think that bringing yourself back to the why could be a really good way of repairing a relationship that's struggling. So I think you know one of the last things I want to mention here is that maybe we need, like, as women, to carry the brunt of the emotional vulnerability piece in the relationship, in the sense that if we are better at this, better at feeling, then we should be the ones reading the room more. And if we sense that our partners are getting very anxious and upset in our need for them to display their emotions much more, then we need to read that and we need to back off. You know, we need to allow them to do it in a space and a time that they feel most comfortable in doing that. And pushing them to becoming more emotionally attuned is not helping at all. So I think sometimes, as women, like, it's sort of like I should say both partners in general, there seems to be this scorecard that we want to often keep. It's sort of like, I'm doing my job in this realm of the relationship, so you should be doing your fair share of it. Like, in other words, equal emotional vulnerability has to happen in this relationship. And again, I think that's ridiculous. Like, if you're better in one part of the relationship than another person, then good, you know, great, carry that load. I'm sure they're much better in other areas of the relationship than you are. And, you know, speaking directly to the emotional vulnerability attunement piece, I mean, get it somewhere else, women. Like, get your deeper emotional sharing attunement somewhere else. Because again, if it's a skill they're not willing to work on, then so be it. Um, I personally I go to my girlfriends often, and there's nothing better, Sometimes it's a therapist, right? Sometimes it's a parent, you know. I hope it's not your children, especially if you've been married for some time. I mean, don't use your child as your therapist or someone to talk about how, frustrating it is that dad doesn't want to share his feelings. I mean, let's not go there. So, yeah, I mean, just get it somewhere else. I mean, even from prayer, but I think you have to realize that you need to take some inspired action here. You just can't expect a therapist, a friend, God to solve your problems. You need to make some changes in your relationship that you feel is going to be the betterment for the relationship. And if that's sort of acceptance of your partner more, then I think that's a great first step. So I hope that helps, and thanks for listening.